Our guest today is Leela Soma, I'm pleased to say. Pleased to say because I've met you so many times, Leela, but never in person.
Absolutely right.
Because
Virtually.
because of all the restrictions. We're best friends on Zoom
Yeah,
for
right.
launches of my book, launches of your book, and all the topics in between when we've been on chatting. And I can't wait to talk to you about Murder at the Mela, because that's the most recent book that you brought out with Ringwood. But what I'd want to do, what inspired that, Leela?
It's a good question because I came into it by accident.
Okay.
There was a Pitch Perfect from Bloody Scotland, the crime festival.
Yes.
And they said 100 words for the Pitch Perfect.
You were to write 100 words?
And just sent it away. And I thought, well, 100 words. And I looked around and I thought, there's no Asian detective inspector. There's Rebus, there's Lorimer, there's all these other,
Yeah.
So I thought, right.
My hero's Columbo, by the way.
Columbo.
Yeah. I model myself on Columbo.
The little Mac. Yes, and I just decided I'll just write these 100 words and see how it comes. So I went to Pitch Perfect and I was shortlisted, but not the winner, obviously. But there were so many people interested, they came in and said, we'd love to read this, book.
From 100 words?
From 100 words pitch.
Wow.
So I went ahead and wrote, started the book, should I say. Tried to find all my friends who are in the police, because it's a police procedural, obviously. And
all the people that had arrested you over the years.
How did you know? And then, I had to go, but, life comes in between. My daughter got married. I went to Washington, D.C. and Buffalo, New York. I'd taken 20,000 words that I'd written in a USB thinking, I'm going to work on this, when I'm there. Because I was away for 2 months.
Mm-hmm.
No, I lost the USB drive and
sake.
I didn't have backup. And I came back, I was very demotivated and I thought, that's not for me or whatever. But the thing always was the back of me, you'd written so much. And so I started.
And you had the story now.
I had the story and
head.
the plot.
Yes.
So I thought, right, I'll go back to it. And that's how.
Because that's something that people forget as you're writing it.
Yeah.
You're resolving things all the time as you're writing. You've created a character and you've put a plot and you've put a story, but you haven't resolved it.
Exactly. And
that
the character lives
you.
with you.
Yeah.
And all that was happening.
Does your husband know that D.I. Patel has moved in with you?
He's very, very supportive, I must say. Yes.
You need that. Yeah, that's vital.
Yes.
So let me step back, because Murder at the Mela wasn't your first book.
No, I had written 2 other novels.
Okay, what were they?
The first one was called Twice Born. That's not here just now because we run out of copies.
Right. Okay.
This is my second novel.
Bombay
Baby. It's a Dahlia publishers. 2 books were totally different. They were general fiction. The first one is about a young lady girl coming from India to settle in Glasgow, and that was Twice Born.
That sounds familiar.
Yeah. And it was about the kind of cultural adaptation that you have to do coming from Madras to Glasgow. Got good reception, and then Dahlia picked up. They were a little publisher down in England.
Okay.
So this was my second one. This is about medical tourism in Bombay.
Yes.
And when I was actually writing the first book, I saw a little photograph of an Indian-looking girl with 2 white parents, and I thought, must be adopted. But as I read the news, it was an embryo transfer she had in Bombay. Wow. And I thought, that's fascinating,
Yeah.
So what will the girl be thinking? So that's made me start,
to put
thinking
yourself
about
in her shoes.
Yes, so it was like a kind of quest for this girl. Would this child be able to find her, would you call her birth mother? Because it was really just an embryo transfer, and over a
genetic mother.
Genetic origin. So, and how would she find someone in a, almost a 1,000, the population of India is ginormous. Yeah. But I found ways, in fact, so that was...
Okay, well, I don't know about anyone else, but I'm going to read Bombay Baby now anyway. It sounds very interesting. Other books before that and since then?
I've had a few poetry collections.
Right.
I did the first poetry collection for really raising money for breast cancer.
Okay.
And that was called From Madras to Milghai. Madras was my birth city, and Milghai is where I live. So that was an obvious.
Madras being Chennai now.
Madras is not Chennai, yes. It'll always be Madras.
And Bombay now being Mumbai.
Bombay, yes, Mumbai. It's all changed. And then my second poetry book, which I should have brought, I didn't, collection, was called Tartan and Turmeric. And it's about.
There's definitely a theme here.
There is
there?
a theme, yes. And
So,
then.
so when did you move to Scotland then, Leela?
I came in 1969.
Wow, you were only a girl.
I lived here longer
Right.
than I have been in Madras,
Yeah.
my birth city.
50
So
years.
53 years now this will be. So it's been, this is home. And Madras now is my roots, my foundation.
Yeah.
So I think both of them are homes and makes me richer. I think I've got two heritage, two cultures that I can.
Do you still have family in India?
Yes, I have, but they're all over the world too, So
Yes,
I have a
yes.
brother and sister in India. My parents have passed, and a huge extended family. I also have a sister in Canada and another my own daughters in DC. So
All over the world,
all
yeah.
over the world. So
All these holiday destinations.
that's right, and a niece in Australia, in Perth. Would you believe?
Lovely.
So phone calls, can you imagine?
Oh,
But now with WhatsApp and technology and
yeah,
FaceTime,
it's incredible, isn't it?
It's
How we
really
can keep
good,
in touch.
yeah.
Because we're the same with Australia. I've got family in Australia too.
yeah.
So, what did you do? You came over here. What age were you when you came to
I
the
was
UK?
21.
Okay. So, what
Yeah.
have you been doing other than
Well,
authoring?
I had just finished my master's in India, would you believe? And I came in and took a postgraduate in Jordan Hill for teaching.
Right.
And
The old Jordan Hill College.
Old Jordan Hill
Yeah.
College, yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
It's now Calla Holmes.
It's no, I think it's still the University of Strathclyde University, and
maybe a wee
but
bit
it's
less.
taken a big chunk of it. It was a good introduction to the Scottish system of education.
And did you come over with your parents then? Did
No,
your family move
no,
over?
I had married my husband who was in Germany originally, and then came over to Glasgow, and then so it's
Yeah.
been.
Indian backgrounds are
time.
always so global,
Yeah.
aren't they? They're
Bit
always
like
a
the
big
Scots all over the
yeah,
world.
Yeah, and the Irish,
The
yeah,
Irish too,
everywhere.
yeah. So that was a good introduction to Scotland, because you could see the cross section of society.
Mm-hmm.
Because you had the teachers, who were obviously the educated class, and then you had the little kids, and we're talking about secondary education.
Yeah.
So.
So what did you teach?
I taught modern studies,
Right.
which is like politics. You
Yeah.
could say.
Do we still do modern? Of another
Yeah,
name
they
now,
do.
does it?
No, still modern studies doing very well. So.
Good. Because it was always geography or history or
history.
modern studies. That was the kind of choice that you had.
That's right, yes. And it was considered the easier of the three, or the softer option. But try teaching Waynes from 11 to 16 about politics,
Yeah.
But I really enjoyed it, because I was
That
always
softer
interested.
option is misleading though, isn't
It's
it?
very,
Because geography and history have got facts behind them.
Exactly.
That
yeah.
you can, I'm not saying modern history, modern
Modern
science
studies has
doesn't-
facts, it's
Yes.
world history.
but it's
that's
not
happening.
really about the facts, it's
It's
about behind the data
Of course,
and different views.
we're looking at society, we're looking at politics. You have to be very objective when you're,
Yes.
dealing with kids, and you're not putting your political ideas.
Yeah.
So that was important.
Whereas history is easy, everybody knows that the First World War started in 1862, that's...
I think you need a bit of revision, Mr. McLean.
So did you take up writing when you retired from teaching then?
Well, I used to do a wee bit before. I was a voracious reader, I must say, because my father, my grandfather, all in law, and
Okay.
editor of law journals, etc. And my father used to collect books, and huge collection of books always. And one of our treats used to be, he used to take us to the oldest bookshop in Madras called Higginbotham's. It's still there,
Right.
very colonial building, and we used to, get comic or a book or whatever we want to. So reading was always there, and surrounded by books always.
I think that's important,
It's
Leela,
so
that people say, I'm not interested in reading. I think it's very much a family a family culture that's built around reading.
Yeah.
It's part of everyday life, and what a gift it is to give someone.
Absolutely, I think it's a wonderful legacy. So
An old friend of mine, Charlie Tremendous Jones, told me once, he told everyone once at a big function that we were at about books, that there are only two things that will change you over the next 5 years, will change the course of your life, and that's the people you meet and the books you read.
Yes, true.
And I believe that.
That's
What's your favourite ever book? What's the...
Oh, that's a good question to ask, because I think you probably wouldn't have heard, there are a series of comics in India called Chandamama. And they're all, they're all legends and myths, and you get all your history of India. It's all valor and gods and goddesses, and there's always a morality behind it.
Yes.
And I don't know how many of you know that some of even Grimm's fairy tales, etc., were kind of based, the Indo-Germanic fusion of ideas, because they were based on a very early folk tale, should I say, or.
Okay.
And I think as a young child, perhaps that still remains in your mind, that kind of reading. But for a book as such,
that's fascinating. That it's from that impressionable age, if you like.
Yes.
Because mine's is Tom Sawyer.
Right.
But I was 11 or maybe 12, and it was very impressionable on me.
Of course. Yes.
So much so that I still want to live in a riverboat, but that's another story.
There you are.
But I think that's the age, and that's the family thing. It's a gift that we give our children round about that age, if they can form a habit of reading.
Yes, I think that's so important. And we were all inclined, there were 5 of us and brothers, sisters. In India, the summer holidays very hot. You get your holidays and it's unbearable, the heat. And one of the things is sit in the shade and, do lots of looking at books and reading, and
you're not going to go for a run.
You're not going to,
40
exactly.
degrees.
I mean, the brothers and all played cricket, and they would just put us at fielding, which was not very good,
So you could sit and read your book, get hit with the ball now and again.
So, but there you are, so enjoyed reading from.
We've been in India twice, and it's fascinating, but we go in January, obviously, when it's
nicer,
cooler. But better. But fascinating what you're saying about the mythology and all that spiritualism that's behind everything in India, that's underlying everything, everywhere you go. What a country. Yeah. And I think you either love it or hate it as well.
I was going to say that, you can either kind of like it or...
People sometimes ask me what it's like and try and explain anything, because it's like, if you go to a concert and someone says, what was it like? It's impossible to explain because it's an emotional thing.
You have to experience it.
And it's the same with a book. If somebody says, what's that book like, Murder at Mela? I couldn't explain it, because everybody takes from it what they take from it, based on their experience. And India's a bit like that.
Well, it's a continent, as you know, so the different races, different languages.
Totally. We went from the north, we did the triangle from Delhi, and then we went to Mumbai. Different world entirely.
Yes, you need to go down to Madras.
Well, we went down to Kerala.
Oh, right.
And stayed down in Kerala for the last week or so, and it was fantastic. So it's a whole variety. Languages, I don't know how many languages there are. But the story I sometimes tell that kind of explains the mentality is when I went to get my first visa to go to India. And it was a police officer, an inspector, his name was Del Singh, who I knew very, very well. I played badminton with him for the police. And a businessman, Balraj, who had a big business in Glasgow and was well known. It's sadly passed now. And they were organising the visa. So we all turned up in the morning, say 10 o'clock, and they gave us a cloakroom ticket, which was very highly organised. And they told us you had to go upstairs when your number was called, pay your £30 cash. That was emphasised at least 100 times. £30 cash, £30 cash. And when you went upstairs, there was a pizza box that you had to throw your £30 in, and you left your passport. And you must retain your ticket. And then you were told to come back at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and you would get your passport stamped, etc. So we all checked back at 3 o'clock, and we're all sitting with our cloakroom tickets, maybe 40 or 50 of us. And Balraj came down with Del, and they were carrying a big table with all the passports on it. And they placed it in the middle of the hall we were in. They obviously forgot about the tickets and said, passports are ready! And everybody rushed up and there was passports flying everywhere there. And I shouted, Del, we've got no time for cloakroom tickets, Mr. Simon, no time for that.
Right.
It was just mayhem.
Right.
And to me, that kind of prepared me
Yes.
for arriving.
Can be disorganized, yes.
Apparently there's no word in Indian for queue.
No, there isn't, would you believe?
And that
But
might,
it's also the pressure of people. Have you tried ever here, just standing in a traffic queue, and people kind of, want to cut, or, the tempers fray, and because things are always available here, people don't realize, if you have to fight for things, things would be
well,
very
the traffic's, I could write
Yeah.
a book about that. It wouldn't be very nice,
No,
no.
of course.
So, Murder at the Mela,
Yeah,
which was my first meeting of Leela Soma. You want to tell us a wee bit about the book?
Right, it's basically about an Indian, or the first Asian detective inspector from Glasgow. He comes from a middle-class family, and his parents are very disappointed he didn't go into the professions that
Of
all
course.
Asians would like to,
Yes.
especially medical or accountancy or law, and those are the three that, and of course recently IT, because IT is
Yes.
a boom, and
Or politics.
politics is kind of takes for first generation Indians, and they want to make sure you've got your, economically you're stable. So DI or Alok Patel is slightly different because he goes for police from the time he's been at school. He has this feeling of, justice, and wants to be in a profession that he likes, and it's his passion. Parents accept his career choice because he does very well at Tully Allen, and then he comes into the police force, and would you believe he gets fast tracked into becoming a DI?
Yeah.
So
Accelerated
promotion, and it doesn't bode well with everyone.
No.
As one,
No, that builds resentment right away.
Well, there's one particular
If I'd known that, I wouldn't have read it.
There's one colleague of him called Alan Brown, who's also went for the same job, and he's not very happy about Alok's promotion, but he has to work there. So that's a little bit of a thorn in the side, which shows a little bit of racism you can have in any part of your life. It doesn't matter whether you're a policeman, you're a lecturer, you're a teacher, so I wanted to bring that element in. He's also got personal life problems, which is his partner that he falls in love with is Uzma, who's Muslim, and he's Hindu. He comes from an Orthodox Hindu family, and Uzma's parents are also not too happy about. So there's two culture clashes within the Asian community. You can see that, It's a bit like what you have here, Roman Catholic and Protestant. You have the sectarian divide. Yeah. Whereas that is two completely different.
I remember once Leela in Govan, the boss of the Swallow Hotel. Yeah. It's changed now, and obviously he's long gone. But he phoned the police and said that he thought there was drug dealing going on Clifford Street behind the Swallow Hotel in Govan. I don't know if you know what it is. It runs along the side of the M8. And so somebody went and saw him, and we set up an observation from the top of the Swallow, a room in the Swallow, to watch Clifford Street at the appointed time. It was around lunchtime, and sure enough, 2 or 3 cars turned up, and all the Asian kids were exchanging and chatting and doing what teenagers do, and they all went away. And the next day we were there waiting for them, and we detained them under the Misuse of Drugs Act, because everybody assumed that there was some dealing going on, but it wasn't. It was different castes of different types of teenagers. Maybe what you're saying, maybe a Muslim meeting, and that was what the secrecy was about.
So clandestine meetings
because their parents would have been horrified to think that they were doing that.
So I brought that in to show that it's not a homogenous people just to think of all Asians, and if I use a derogatory term, all Pakis, it doesn't matter. They have no idea of having these. A kind of.
And that term's perfect because it sums up the ignorance of people that classify everyone under one term. And it was a Glasgow thing. It was a thing. Yeah, I'd like to think that we're getting away from it now.
I think it's important to bring the real issues. Reflect society in every way.
And I think the book does that.
But I think the murder of the young girl who's happens to be Muslim, and at the murder at the Mela, which is a huge, it celebrated the 30th year, would you believe?
Yeah.
And it just was the perfect setting, Though my police inspector friend said having a body out in the open is harder than maybe something in a room. You get the clues quite easily, and you've got the biggest space. I said, no, this just feels right to me. So I just stuck with that. So
tell us a bit more about the Mela, because most people probably don't know what a Mela is.
Right. I was surprised that one of the Amazon reviews said, I've lived in Glasgow all my life, I'm from Glasgow, but I've never heard of the Mela,
Right.
And Mela started in a very small way with just businessmen putting their wares out, and actually what is now the Transport Museum and a Kelvin Hall.
Yeah.
And it started in, as I said, just a few stalls.
And because it's an Asian thing, food has got to be there.
Food was there.
Yeah, the wives bring food along.
Absolutely. And I think it just grew from that very small beginnings to a point where they couldn't accommodate the people in Kelvin Hall, so they moved to the Kelvin Grove Park rather than, and it's been such a success because they're able to even invite people from, all over the subcontinent to come in, and it's become like, I call it like the Notting Hill Carnival in England, or London, should I say. So it's a big, huge event.
I was a community policeman in Govan for a few months before I got moved, and I was lucky enough to get to one Mela as a community policeman, and
brilliant.
What a day out it was. It was absolutely the music, the colours, the food, the smells, the dancers, everything. It's like, I suppose it's like our Highland Games, although because we have them all over Scotland, they're quite contained. But the Mela's a one-off.
That's
I
right.
think it was then.
It started off here, I think, and then it moved, so Edinburgh's got it, and all the other ones have got small. Because they've realised that it's a nice way of getting people together. From
and the Scottish people think nobody parties like us. I would dispute that, because I've seen Asian weddings that can last for a fortnight. They really know how to enjoy themselves, don't they? And there's the whole family are involved. It's not just a section of community. Everyone comes round. Older people, kids, everyone's catered for. It's a fantastic atmosphere. Until that one, there was a murder. I imagine putting a murder at a Mela. That's ridiculous.
Well, I just had to find the place that I felt was right, and went with the plot. And a lot of red herrings.
Very atmospheric as well.
Atmospheric. And there's a lot of tensions even within that murder, because there was questions about whether it's an honour killing, is it a racist murder, is she in love with, a white guy. There's so many bits of elements that I brought in too. I also brought
Does it sell in India?
I've not actually got the rights for India so I had to tell Ringwood too.
If there's anyone watching from Mumbai.
Yes, that would be quite good. And I think it's important to also show that in the book there's also another murder of people from not the affluent part, Drumchapel, and I've always wondered, living in Milga and Bearsden and just 2 miles down the road, such an area of deprivation, it's like two planets almost. And that has always stayed in my mind, and I thought I should bring that aspect of life too. So,
although Drumchapel, a bit like Easter House and the Gorbals and places like that, are now very transformed over the last 10-20 years. Very much so. Govan, where I worked, all these places started off with pockets of estates, but it's now transformed. Glasgow has transformed.
Glasgow City
a
itself. From when I came here in 1969, I remember, because of the usage of coal, I think the buildings were all black, and with the kind of, we talk about pollution now, but I do remember the kind of really foggy mornings, and we lost our way to our house once. We went past our house because it was so foggy, the actual,
Did you smoke?
Distance.
Maybe it was that.
No. I've got no virtues, and I'm going to say no virtues, no vices.
That was a nice Freudian slip.
Freudian slip there. No vices at all. No. But then the 1990, when the Glasgow City was cleaned up and the beauty of the red sandstone and the blonde sandstone,
and all our parks were rejuvenated as well.
Absolutely, it's a beautiful city now. So.
The bit we haven't done is the Clydeside, We often go abroad and think Glasgow could do this. They make something of their rivers.
I like the walkways, and those are all getting better. But yeah, I suppose they could need money.
Yeah. So what are the big themes of Murder at the Mela?
Right.
You mentioned racism.
Yeah, there is racism. There is a bit of tension within the Asian communities too. Yeah. We've also got a thing about whether communities can exist in peace and find solutions, and I think that's important. Whether it is just going to be a question of this is going to go on for generations, and with all what's happening in the Met Police even today, I think the commissioner was talking about racism in the Met. I think those are all things that should be brought in, and as far as I know, we don't see much of it with the Scottish crime books, because it's very much into
people are scared.
Drugs and perhaps
I think
being
people are scared
sensitive.
Yes,
but the other
comedians, all the creative arts now are whereas before you could say things, and to my mind humour broke down a lot of these barriers because they made the absurd of the everyday, if that makes sense.
Yeah, but yes, I think those were the issues that I did want to bring out, and I think it's important to address them.
Yeah.
And also there was one other thing. I found that many of the police inspectors or personalities shown in other books had a very stereotypical, either they were drunk constantly, had a drink problem, should I say, or had terrible family issues.
Which usually go hand in hand.
Well, they do, and I just wanted that to be slightly different because,
So it's not realistic at all.
It's very true of this particular DI because he's from a different background.
Yes, and alcohol's not part of his culture.
It's not a big culture, though he likes his Glengoyne whiskey.
And straight away I can see a conflict. If he's a DI, or a policeman, detective especially, and he doesn't take a drink.
Time in pub. No, he does take a drink. He's not a teetotaler. He likes his Glengoyne whiskey, but he's not a pub frequenter, if you know what I mean. He would hang around pubs too.
That's much more serious than the racism. Nobody trusts somebody that doesn't get drunk.
That's true. But then you have Lorimer with Alex Gray, who is very middle class and doesn't kind of go in. But he's also a poet. He loves poetry.
Right.
So there's a different kind of attitude, to him.
Which we'll come to just in 1 second. I was thinking about the racism angle there. I once did when I was a community cop again for that few months, the BBC asked me there had been a fight or a riot or whatever over insurance, because there was quite a bit of tension in the education system at that time. And they asked if I would do a piece for a reporter about racism in Govan. So we went out on the beat together. And it was for radio, so he just had the kit on and we just had the microphone. He was only a young lad. And I took him up Paisley Road West. I was in uniform. And it shows the communications, how important it is that we communicate and not keep separate. Because we're across the road at Percy Street on Paisley Road West, and there's some Asian boys playing football, kicking a ball about. And I said to him, here's a gang across the road here. And his hair stood up immediately. Oh, is it safe to go over? And I said, just you stay behind me. So he's behind me, cowering behind me as we walk over. And when they saw me coming over, they all turned around and went, Mr. Simon, how are you? And kicked the ball to me in the middle of the road. Some people won't believe this, right? This is where fantasy takes over, but I controlled it and passed it back to them, roughly. And the reporter was still wondering what was going on. But these lads, I knew their parents, and the biggest threat I had against them was that I could tell their parents if they were misbehaving, because that was how the structure worked. You wouldn't give anyone a shown up. That would be a disgrace, a policeman coming to the door. And that's where I got this, was eating in that 6 months on Paisley Road West. I'm still trying to lose the weight that I put on at that time, because you were made so welcoming, and food is a big part of that welcome.
Yes, it is.
So it shows that people could see that as a gang.
Yes,
and it's actually boys playing football on the street, or chatting, or whatever, playing cricket very often as well, having painted the stumps on the wall, the gable end. That was very common in Govan as well. So we mentioned poetry there. Have you got anything with you that you could give us a flavour of?
Right, I have my latest
Very
Half your
topical,
chin
just by coincidence.
Chins like a. So I could read you one poem if you'd like.
I'd love it.
And as you said right at the
How
beginning.
long is it?
It's quite a short poem.
That's
So.
all right. So as long as it's not a Sandy Jemison book length, it'll be all right.
And basically we're talking about, you said right at the beginning, how I have a theme there
Yeah.
between India and things. So it's a kind of...
The Scottish Indian.
Yeah, the Scottish Indian thing. So the title tells you it. Fish and chips or chicken tikka masala, right? Spices roasted and ground to a fine yellow powder. Chicken breasts sautéed in hot coconut oil. Traders for spices from Arabia and China bartered with grace. A few hundred years of flames on brick ovens. Black pepper, aroma rich, enticing the European palate. The Portuguese and the Dutch sailed over. Wars fought. The vanquishing heroes building churches, converting people. The dish spicing more races. The English arrive. Wars fought over with the French and the Dutch. Benign traders transformed to colonials. Bit like the Malagatani soup, and they curried flavored with the Maharajas. Sent bonded workers to Mauritius, Sri Lanka, Kenya. The trade routes spiced, flavored, expanded, and fortunes made. The Free Republic striving to build a fledgling economy, educating the illiterate, providing for the starving. 70 years later, the Indian state took control, bought Rolls-Royce, British Steel, the Dorchester Hotel, and the chicken tikka creamed over the spicy version and replaced fish and chips.
Superb.
So it's
It
just
conjures up so much
right.
between the two.
Mm-hmm.
And having been in India, it's really quite poignant.
Yes, indeed, yes.
The similarities as well, because
Of course.
the welcome that we got everywhere in India reminded us of the Scottish people and how we respond like that as well. Leela, it's been absolutely fascinating. I could go on all day.
Oh, one thing I almost forgot.
You've written 25,000 words. Can you give us any teasers, any hints about?
Well, D.I. Patel has his next murder
Another murder?
another murder to investigate. But there is something more than that. There are other issues also coming up. Obviously, his love life is as complicated as ever. So that's something else that people wanted, especially in the sequel. They kept asking, but I don't want to reveal too much because buy the book when it comes out.
They say that authors, when they're writing, it's usually from their own experience and their own background. Is this mixed love life part of your background?
Not really, but I know quite a few friends.
How long have you been married, Leela?
I've been married 53 years this March,
53
Julie.
Yeah.
And our family is like a United Nations. We have kind of every creed and caste and race in our family. So
some you've observed.
Yeah, I've observed
yes.
a lot and been in quite close contact with people who've gone through that. So that is one aspect of it. So
Leela, I'm going to let you go, but only on the condition that you go and finish it for us. Yeah? No more distractions.
No more distractions, but as you know, Sandy and Ringwood publishers have arranged quite a lot of book festivals and go to Granite.
He's a hard taskmaster, isn't he? He really is.
So off to Granite
I
Noir
wouldn't say
in
that to his
Aberdeen.
face right enough, but he really is a hard taskmaster.
Well,
but that's the problem with a successful book,
Yes,
because I know that you've been put forward for awards and you've had awards,
That's right.
and that you're now registered with the Book Society to go out and talk to kids and
That's
things
right,
about.
publishing. And the Paisley Book Festival this Saturday, and then Granite Noir, and then there's quite a few others cropping
Granite
up,
Noir,
which is up in Aberdeen,
Right.
which is a crime festival.
right?
So
No wonder you
it's-
can't finish the book.
I know, it's distractions all the
This
time.
celebrity.
I don't know about celebrity, but it's enjoyable, and I must thank Ringwood too. So
Have you found what I've found with becoming published is it's amazing the people that come to you and the ripples, I call it, globally,
yes,
of the effect that you have in people's lives.
that's wonderful. And nice meeting you too.
At last.
At last. Thank you, Simon.
Thank you.
Thank you.